I'm Dayton Keesee, one of the elders at the Choctaw Church of Christ, and want to share these thoughts also with you. Before Christ was born, an angel informs us that they would call his name Jesus, for it is he who will save his people from their sins. Matthew 1 verse 21. How important is that mission? Does sin really pose as a problem? By biblical definition, sin is a transgression of the law, 1 John 3 and verse 4. James adds, to him who knows to do good and does it not, to him it is sin, James 4:17. Thus, the 59th Psalm, verse 12, warns us about how we might sin with our mouth. And Isaiah, the 31st chapter and verse 7, informs us that one can sin with his hands. Romans, the 6th chapter and verse 12, points out how that we can, through sin, have ourselves controlled or constantly in charge of the body. Verse 13 adds that the varied members of the body can become instruments of sin. Then Galatians, the 5th chapter, verses 16 through 21, lists 15 different ways we can sin in the flesh. Also, Romans, the 1st chapter, Colossians, the 3rd chapter, points out other ways that we can sin. Romans 3 verse 23 simply says that all people have sinned. 1 John 1:7 informs us, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. But that raises that question again. Does sin pose as a problem? Does sin adversely affect your life and mine? The answers to these questions shout back the fact that each one of us has been hurt, may now be hurting because of sin. Transfer sin into reality, and its pain is easily perceived in every newscast and in every newspaper with its varied expression. See two cars mangled together, the result of a drunk driver having crashed his auto into another vehicle. As the news spreads, the pain and the trail of tears become an impact upon family and upon loved ones and friends. Sin had brutally, through alcohol and a lack of self-control, blasted its impact upon those who are affected by that particular incident. And it leaves a trail of hurt and horror, despair, and even death. Now ask those suffering souls, does sin pose as a problem? And they will shout back the agony that it inflicts. Just think also of other lives addicted by other drugs, and you have the same message delivered again, not only for the addict, but for the list of individuals who are also impacted by this intrusion into human life of pains and perils and problems that all are a part and the outgrowth of sin. You see varied levels of pain and suffering. And from that standpoint, yes, sin truly is a problem. Then just look at the headlines in any newspaper at the robberies, the rapes, embezzlement, entrapment of young people, sold into slavery by greedy overlords through their selfish and shameful shenanigans that ensnare unsuspecting souls. All this shame and suffering shouts out the fact that sin hurts. As someone well said, sin damages, is dangerous, it dazzles, it debases, it decays, it deadens, it destroys, it defames, it defiles, it degenerates, it degrades, it delays. Sin deludes, it demolishes, it demoralizes, it denounces, it denies, it deprives, it depresses, it desecrates, it deserts, it distracts, it devastates, it devours, it disfigures, and it defies him who is divine. Any way you look at it, sin is truly a peril, and its influence is so deep that it really destroys its victims, and it is so broad that everyone, every family, every community, and therefore every country has felt its impact. Each one has his or her own heartache and maybe a heartbreak because of the persistent problem of sin. Thank God that he recognizes that fact and has prepared for us a solution. Listen to the next part on this disc to find that solution.